Hi, my name is Nathaniel Shuda. I'm the city reporter for Daily Tribune Media here in Wisconsin Rapids, and we're here today on River City's Community Access, going to be talking to former Mayor Mary Jo Carson as part of a three-part series on interviewing the three candidates for Wisconsin Rapids Mayor. There's going to be a February 18th primary coming up here in a few weeks, and thought we'd take the opportunity to give you guys a chance to get to know each of the three candidates. We've got obviously Mayor Carson, as well as incumbent Mayor Zach Verwink, and challenger Stephen Koth Jr. as well. So hopefully you'll check out both of the other interviews with the candidates. But for now, we've got former Mayor Carson. Glad that you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Always look forward to these visits.
I do as well. It's been a while. Have been out with out of the public eye, so to speak, and so let's get to work here and get down to it. I guess why don't we start off with a little bit about, for those who might not be familiar with you, just if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to this point.
I am the mother of four, the grandmother of four. I have had 5 careers, and the mayor's gig for 6 years was the 5th. I'm a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a degree in communications and radio and television, so I always love to do this kind of stuff. My first career was managing the mall in Marshfield, and then I was a chamber exec in Marshfield, and then I worked for the state of Wisconsin in economic development. And I moved to Wisconsin Rapids in '96 from Plover, and at that time I was still working full-time for the state, so I really wasn't around a lot because I traveled within 10 counties doing economic development. I was always working with businesses and municipalities so that we could work together to grow their economy, their local economy. When I retired from that, unfortunately, within 3 years of my retirement, my sweetheart passed away, and I was kind of at loose ends, and so I helped with the fundraising for this building, which is Centralia. That was a new thing for me, to be in the business of raising money for a very good project, which to this day I'm very, very proud of. And then after I did that, I just kind of thought, well, okay, now I'll figure something else that will make me happy and allow me to contribute. And then I ran in 2006 for mayor. I think that the fun of it all is learning in each one of those jobs. That's the joy of the journey in this life, is learning from each step. And I've been blessed. I've been truly blessed to learn by doing. And that's kind of me. So after I retired from the mayor's job, I was very, very comfortable to leave it alone and let everybody do their thing and proceed on. And had some reasons and had some requests for me to run again, and I waited till the 20th because I was hoping somebody would take out papers, and unfortunately they did after I'd taken mine out. So that's why we have a primary. So we're going to have some good discussion about what the mayor's job is in the city of Wisconsin, which is very healthy, very healthy.
Mm-hmm. And I know other candidates have said that as well,
right.
just to be able to give the public that opportunity
Absolutely.
to have that choice and to see different personalities, different views, and those types of things. Brought up another piece that I had wanted to ask about right off the gate, and that was why decide to come back? Why decide to run for mayor again this time?
I had many people ask me. It wasn't just one. And it started about a year ago. And I just kept pushing away, and I, as everybody probably noticed, no letters to the editor, no comments about what the mayor was doing. I didn't go to meetings, I didn't interfere in what he was doing, because I figured this is his gig, this is his job, he's the boss. But as the requests kept mounting, I thought, well, it's important that the discussions occur. And as you know, I did write one letter to the editor, and it was about, we need to have, opposition in every position. I hoped, as I said, somebody would have come forward sooner. That's why I waited so long. So it's partly what a democracy is. A democracy is all about good sharing of information and viewpoints and what you feel you can bring to the table as a candidate. So that's why it's just as simple as that. The number of requests just continue to grow from just a lot of sectors in the community.
And I think we'll kind of get back to some of that here in a few minutes. One other thing that I also wanted to kind of point out, because I know a lot of people probably are talking about this fact. Obviously, 2 years ago, when you did decide to retire and leave that mayor position, kind of lent your support to Zach in his campaign. Obviously, things have kind of changed, and you've obviously felt that it's your desire to throw your hat in the ring. Can you kind of explain that change in thought and where that came from?
I do not think, and I don't want anybody to think this is personal. It has nothing to do with anything personal. It has to do with 2 years of being the mayor. And when I ran, I always was opposed, which I welcomed, and I will continue to go back to that. It has nothing to do with anything else, but not only my perception, but others' perception of what has been going on while he's been mayor. And it's important for him and me and our third candidate to answer the questions of why we do what we do and why we would promise something and where we're standing behind this or this or this. So number one, it's not personal. It changed as his mayoral activities went forward. And that's normal. I mean, that's normal. That's not, and as I said, this is not personal, never has been, never will be. He's a fine young man, and that has nothing to do with it.
I think that almost kind of leads into the next question.
Well, I'm just helping you out, aren't I?
is why? What are some of those things? You kind of made some reference to some perhaps changes or some perhaps things that you're not necessarily that thrilled about or that happy about, and obviously kind of driving that reason behind throwing your hat in the ring. Can you tell me a little bit about specifics of some of those pieces?
Well, I feel very strongly that local government is the purest form of democracy. You heard me say that over and over and over when I was in the mayor's chair. The people who elect you can find you in the grocery store, at the gas station, at public events, that you're accessible. You're right here living among them. So that makes it a real pure dialogue. They can find you, they can ask, or they can get mad at you, which they certainly have a right to do. So I feel very strongly that there was a real lack of accessibility in this last 2 years to the mayor. It's important to talk to them personally. It's important to let them rant and rave at you. They're not going to agree with everything, and you need to understand what they're irritated about before you hand it off to department head. And I think that's one of the big things that bothers me. And the other thing is accountability. I think it's very important, if you are going to use public money to travel, or to go to meetings, or to belong to organizations, it's important to tell the taxpayer what the return on the investment is. We have so many people in this community that are struggling to pay their bills, who are doing their very best to, survive. And it's their dollar. It's their dollar we're spending as public servants. So I feel very, very, very strongly that accountability is very important. And we work for the taxpayers. I mean, we're public servants. That's who we are, and we can never forget that. So those are the primary things that I would like to return to that office. And it's important to support city employees. They're good people, every last one of them, and it's important to work with them to solve the problems of the city. Now, I know the Lean Sigma 6 was supposed to do that, and it probably has helped, but the investment in it, okay, what return on investment did we get? I keep asking because there's just not money dropping off of trees here, and we have to be responsible with the city's, with the taxpayers' dollar.
Mm-hmm. And some of those concerns are not yours alone. I mean, there's other folks, even some members of the council have shared some of those criticisms, I guess, in terms of accessibility and accountability, and both of which that you had mentioned. I guess what are your thoughts in terms of the mayor has responded to some of these criticisms, and I think one of the points that he will say is that, in fact, he said it on numerous occasions, is that he views the post as not being a position where you lead behind a desk, and that was kind of that catchphrase that has been thrown out there at least a couple times now. And you have talked before as well about the importance of being out in the community and those types of things, and even pointing to some of the, not just within the city but outside of the city, at League of Wisconsin Municipality meetings, other conferences and conventions, and even at the state and even the national level. What are your views in terms of the importance of those types of things representing the city at a higher type level, and attending some of these events outside of the city, which I know you had done some of as well, especially in your earlier terms, just to kind of get a better handle on the position and things like that. What are your thoughts when you hear somebody say, it's not about just leading from behind a desk. We have to be out and about and at this higher level as well?
I think that is a very interesting phrase. The reason I say that is you can return your constituents' phone calls from anywhere, because we are a mobile society. We all have cell phones. So the fact that I return phone calls within 12 hours. I kept a list, and I tried to get back to the people that called me. I could have been behind my desk when I did that, or I could have been elsewhere. So the leading behind the desk is whatever it is. It's his phrase, and that's fine. I find, and I have some very sincere and significant experience at going to these meetings, because I've gone to many of them in my career, as I pointed out, with five careers. I think you have to be very careful you don't get sucked into meetings that are expensive and unproductive, because again, I go back to the return on investment. How much money is it going to cost you to go to that meeting? What is the exposure for the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and what are you really going to get out of it? What is that exposure going to do for these taxpayers? And I have to go a little further with that, because you can go to all the meetings in the world, and that doesn't mean you're going to find a business that's going to come to this community at those meetings. What you're doing is you're saying, yeah, I'm here, but what does that blend in the crowd do for you? I'm not saying it doesn't help. My tendency is, stay closer to home and work with the businesses that are here, and you will get more bang for the buck. Look at Ocean Spray. Look at Urban Mariani. Look at Jamie Mansell. They were all here. So consequently, you got to stay close to what's going on here, and that could easily do more than any of the running around. It's expensive. And because it's expensive, that return on investment really has to be questioned. And again, I understand why he has taken advantage of that. He hasn't done that before. I have. And that's the difference in experience. And that can't be changed. So I do look at it differently.
And that was also something I wanted to point out, is that aspect of experience. It's rather unusual, I think, in a situation like this, where you've got a sitting mayor with a couple of challengers, and in this case, one of those challengers might have arguably more experience than the sitting mayor. How much do you think that plays into this race?
Well, the people that remember what I did and understand, the 6 years. And I mean, people forget. You can't expect the public to remember all those details I just listed. It's understandable they forget. But on the other hand, that experience and that ability to prove to the taxpayer, I know how to work with the Common Council to strike a deal. with a business. That's helpful. We know we need jobs, but I'm not going to sit here and promise that because the East Side Park is certified, we're suddenly going to have people coming in from everywhere. It just is a lot of work, and it isn't easy. It's a lot of work. There aren't that many expansions right now, and if you can grab one, if the mayor can grab one, more power to him. I'm all for it. I'll support him every way I can. If he's working, if the city is working with somebody right now, you can't tell anybody. I understand that. I've been in that business for a long time. On the other hand, you got to be careful what you promise, because the taxpayers have a right to come back and say, but you said, where is it? So I'm probably, because of my experience, more conservative on what I'm going to say I can and cannot do. The mayor is the chief executive officer of a $28+ million business. And the fiduciary responsibility, along with working very closely with Tim DeSorcy, is extremely important. But the other piece is you got employees, over 200 of them. That's another big part of it. And then what are we marketing and not marketing? So the experience piece, I worked so hard to get that wastewater treatment plant there. I'm probably one of the few mayors that knows what a digester is and why we have it, and the methane and where it goes and how it, does the electrical work for it powers the plant when we create enough methane. I think the experience is valuable, but not the only thing. You have to have a job to get experience. So I understand that that's a challenge too, but I've been in those shoes, and I understand the position. You're working to get experience.
And you touched on some of throughout our conversation, you've touched on some of those pieces, some of those examples of some of the things I think
I'm very proud of.
To say you're proud of, yes.
Yes.
And you talked about ocean spray, you talked about ECC corrosion, you've talked about the wastewater treatment plant. I think some of the folks in the community, especially those who haven't been around this community for a big length of time, have kind of had some criticisms of you as well, just because they might not be familiar with all of these projects that you kind of helped spearhead and those types of things. I mean, what of those things you mentioned, what are some of those pieces that you really think that you really are proud of, that you really think benefited Wisconsin Rapids?
Well, the ocean spray project, Jamie's project fell right in my lap as soon as I took office. And we had to relocate him from 16th Street to the East Side Park. We had to come up with a very creative way to do that, with getting some funding through the council to allow him to be reimbursed for the site he had, so he could go to the site on the east side. That was the first time that I had an opportunity to work with the council and help them understand how you do a deal, and really all of the staff. That's when I created the economic development team, and I hope it's still intact, because it's Tim DeSorcy, Sue Schill, and Dave Laspa, and Adam Tagan. All of those people get in a room with me, and we talk about what will it take to make this deal happen. So that project that Jamie did was the very first that fell in place. And the next one that came along was ocean spray, because they had already purchased the receiving station, and then they started to say, well, yeah, maybe we could do more. Can you help us? We were able to get them to buy 33 acres in the West Side Park and allow them to grow when and if they choose. And they were thrilled, because, again, at the price we charge, it was almost looked like free land, because they were from the East Coast. So there was the advantage of being in the Midwest and having the price of the land be, preferential, but we still got paid for it. And that was the opening for going to the Economic Development Administration and getting $1.5 million to help with the industrial side of the wastewater treatment expansion. It's important for people to understand that wastewater treatment plant can be expanded 4 times right where it sits, and it's set up to take additional industrial waste. So we need to be marketing that plant to food processors. And when I left, I thought that was going to happen. Now, I can't say that it has or hasn't. because I haven't, researched it completely. But that's a tool we need to go after. That is something we've already invested in. And the 2 food processing plants that are using it now would benefit from that too. So we take care of 2 businesses that are already here if we can continue to expand that plant. So, I'm very proud of those projects. I'm very proud that I was here and the flood didn't kill anybody. I'm very proud that I was here to learn about hailstorms. I was blessed with a very interesting tenure, but I was here. I was in the building, and I was able to address it as it happened. And I think that's important. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I got about 5 minutes left,
Okay.
and I got two questions that I still want to get to.
Oh,
so
you do. Am I too long-winded here?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But, I think one other piece, kind of going back to that aspect that we talked about, accessibility. One piece that Mayor Bruwick has kind of pointed to is his efforts to increase, what he's saying is increase accessibility using technology, whether that be online or through social media, or creating a social media intern position, or a director of technology type thing. He says that he doesn't want to disenfranchise those who don't have technology, but that this is just another way of getting more people involved in the conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't disagree with anything he's doing. I question spending money unless we know exactly where we're getting it. I question budgets that, where are we getting money to do this, I guess is my biggest question. And if we have extra money and that's what the council thinks it should be applied to, that's fine, but I would ask him to go back to remember always the breakout in this community. Yes, we need to attract young people, but we also have to take care of the people that have been here for 30 years. It's a balance, is what I'm saying. It's a real significant balance. And when you're doing a budget, you have to be very, very careful that you get all voices to the table so it's clear to all of the citizens why you're doing it, not just the people that access that technology all the time. So you have to explain it more significantly and clearly than you do some other things, some other expenditures.
And I guess the last question before I give you the opportunity to talk to voters directly is obviously coming up in April there will be 3 new city council members. 3 previous council members, including President Gene Young, as well as Marion Hokamp and Bob Nash, have said that they're not going to seek another term on the council. So there's going to be quite a bit of turnover in terms of faces that are sitting in that council chambers. Obviously, you've had a chance to work with pretty much almost all of the current council, if I'm not mistaken,
except for maybe 1 or 2.
And so I guess what do you see in terms of having almost a fresh council, so to speak, and what are your thoughts in terms of perhaps new opportunities or new or things that the city might be losing out on with such a new council?
I think it's very important that the 3 new members are allowed to go through what we started when I was in office, and I'm assuming it still continues to this day. We do a tour so that they all get to visit with all the department heads, so they understand what department does what. We took them also on a tour of our industrial parks. We did a bus tour one year when we had some new council members. We're going to have to do that for these people because we have to help that learning curve really get going quickly. I feel very strongly that sometimes new folks are invigorating. Sometimes that's what we need to just get new faces. I think that there again, my experience may be helpful in making that a little less difficult and a little less challenging.
Okay. Well, getting close to that final that final time here. We've got a little bit more than a minute left.
Okay.
I'll give you the opportunity to kind of speak directly to the voters, speak to the residents of the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and maybe share with them a little bit about why you think you're the most qualified candidate, why they should vote Mary Jo Carson for mayor.
Thank you. It's nice to see all of you again. My 2-year absence has been interesting, to say the least. I would like to ask for your vote for 2 reasons. I think that my leadership and my experience as a mayor will help us through some challenging times. All of us know that there are difficulties that many families face in this community. We also know that there's many people that are hurting. I will always be accessible. You learned that when I was in office for 6 years. You could all find me, and I tried my best to get back to each and every one of you in a timely fashion. I also want you to know that I'll be available. If I'm out of town, everybody's going to know where I am, and you're going to know why I'm there. I want you also to know that I respect each one of you. I respect the contribution you make to this community. And finally, I want you to think about something. We are Rapids together. I can't do it alone, you can't do it alone. But together, we can make a difference for this community.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us. And once again, the primary election here will be on February 18th. We've got 3 candidates, obviously former Mayor Carson, as well as incumbent Mayor Zach Verwink and challenger Stephen Koth. For Daily Tribune Media and River Cities Community Access, I'm Nathaniel Shuda.